one question.
Over here. Just to explain to people, can you go through some of the options when it comes to investments such as debentures, convertible shares, common shares, so on and so forth, so that people that are looking to raise money understand it's just not as clear cut as shares. That's it.
It's my past life, so I pass it on to.
And that's my partner. He's the one that really likes reading the documents. But when we went out, we were told convertible notes are generally the safest for investors. There's a number of different, is schemes negative? I don't think schemes is negative, but a number of ways that they want to invest. Ultimately, they want to get back out as soon as they can. So with us, with convertible notes, we put a 5-year term on it with a set rate of interest that they can convert into full share class at any point, and at a certain exit point, we can force them to make a decision. So they can't keep riding their note. They have to or get off the pot. So they're either in or we pay them out their 8% if that's what they're taking. But we try and force these. That's really popular. A lot of people are looking at some of the new terms that were offered to us is almost like a line of credit. So we'll issue it in tranches. So it's at set percentage, but the investors at any point will want to be able to convert into shares. So no matter what it is, they want to be able to capitalize on the up, but they want to be able to get to the door as quick as possible if it's not going well.
Yeah, pretty much every angel investment I've ever made is a convertible note or debenture. So basically, just to take a step back, you invest $10,000 at 8%. You're coasting along, making 8% on your investment. They're using your $10,000, and then at some point, you can convert that $10,000 into a set price into shares of the company, and that might either be at the option of you, the investor, or if you're forced to by the company that borrowed your $10,000 in the first place. So it's a pretty safe bet for both the investor who gets the 8%, and unless you go bankrupt, then you obviously don't get your money back. That's what the 8% is for. And then if the company continues to do well, then you get to convert into an equity piece of the company puzzle. Does that help?
Yeah.
Let's talk about growth strategy. Strategy first, and then particularly growth strategies. How many people in the audience are actually working on a startup that are, I guess, engaging in certain growth activities, user growth, or the hockey stick curve? Okay, 2, okay, 3, not bad, okay.
You should all be working on growth if you're working on it. I don't know what you guys are working on, but it should definitely be growth. It's what I worry about every night when I go to bed, so and every morning when I wake up.
So I guess tell us, what is your strategy and what is particularly your growth strategy, and what are the metrics that measure that?
So let me separate the US and Canada, and then we're also launching in Netherlands, Nordics, UK, and Australia in the next 3 to 6 months. So let me separate, so it's an interesting kind of study in growth, but in the US we've pretty much tripled, quadrupled, however you want to say it, 10 times our focus on undergraduate growth. So we think fraternities, sororities, and college kids in the US are going to be using Tilt way more than just about anyone else. So we'd like to penetrate 100 schools and have 10% market penetration at all those schools. And in the US, that's a fine goal in the US because they have that many schools with that many undergraduate students and that many fraternities and sororities, and we can grow dramatically just focusing on that segment of the population and then worry about our growth from there. But we've got lots of time to focus on those kinds of growth strategies. In Canada, we're not so lucky. So there are a variety of schools, Western, Queen's, Laurier, McGill, and a couple on the West Coast, let's say, that have the similar makeup of like a US large-scale undergraduate population. But we don't really have 100 schools to focus on. So what do we focus our time on? We focus on growing in the millennial category. So in order to use our product, you have to have a Facebook account. You need to use credit cards, so that takes out anyone from, 0 to 16, let's say 18. So you have to have Facebook, you need to use a credit card or debit card. and you need to be, you know, kind of in the organizer category, or at least comfortable with using online. So it's very unlikely that my grandfather is going to start a tilt anytime soon, right? He likes to write checks. I pitched this to some of the lawyers in my office for a Vegas trip that they're going on, and they all said, I don't understand. I write a check on my desk, I send it inter-office to the guy who's collecting all the checks, he puts it in his bank. What could be easier than that? And I looked at him and said, okay, you're right, I don't know. Nobody could. It's super simple. I can't compete with that, but nobody has checkbooks anymore, and if you do, it's for like rent checks, maybe, right? And I know there's all these new startups collecting rent through e-transfers and all different kinds of stuff like that. So I can't compete with people who are going to stick with the old way of doing things. So I'm focused on 18 to 45, and I'm focused on growing in different kind of verticals outside of our undergrad focus. So we're focused on grad schools. They're not really focused on grad schools in the US. So law schools, MBA programs, a million different clubs, committees, events that are going on at all these different schools, very tight-knit groups, and they're all collecting money from each other tens of 20 times a month. They're doing a wine and cheese event, then they're going to a Raptor game, then they're, you know, so those are the kinds of focuses we do. We do weddings, we do sports leagues. You register your sports league team, you spend $5,000 on my hockey team, I then have to collect all that money from 16 guys on my hockey team. At the end of the year, I'm always at $1,000. I can't get it right. I set up an Excel spreadsheet, one guy gives me cash, I forget to write it down, then another guy gives me a check, I forget to cash the check. This way, they all contribute to the tilt money goes into my account. I don't have to worry about it at all. So we focus on sports league teams, yeah?
Sorry, what functions can tilt provide for?
Good question. So, sorry, I'll repeat. So what function can tilt provide for weddings? So we do stag and does. I don't know if you guys are, it's not really a Toronto phenomenon, but more of a smaller town phenomenon, but a bride and groom get engaged, and then they throw a party to raise funds for the actual wedding. So they'll invite people from all over their community to come to a party, and it's $5 or $10 to attend the party, and that money will then go to, it's on a farm somewhere, it's in a bar somewhere, whatever it is, and that money, no, I'm serious, that we do a ton of stag and does, and all that money goes to the couple to then throw their wedding. So that's one example. People like to group fund gifts, so it's for a wedding shower, you want to buy a stroller. Strollers are apparently now $1,200, so you grab 6 friends and you say, okay, we want to buy this nice gift, let's all put $200 in, I'll go buy the stroller, and we don't have to collect money from each other. So there's lots of opportunities. Bachelorette parties are absolutely huge for us. So you know, someone's coordinating in Vegas or Niagara Falls or whatever it might be, and they have to put down their credit card to pay for something, and if they tilt it, they'll have the money in their account before they even have to pay for it on the bachelor party. So we do a lot of things like that. So we're really working the millennial market a lot. Yeah, I see a bunch of hands, so.
How do you penetrate the school market?
Great question. So how do we penetrate the school market in Canada? On the undergraduate side, my colleague on growth has 150 college ambassadors running around Canada, pitching Tilt to their friends, encouraging their friends to use it, and we're looking to build what we call the best ambassador program in the world. So what does that look like? So they get money for encouraging their friends to use it. We've built a membership benefit program. So if you're a Tilt ambassador, you save 15% off at shopping at Frank and Oak. You get 10% off at the Gap. You get all these different things. So you want to be a Tilt ambassador. You get t-shirts, you get cool swag packs in the mail. So we're trying to build, and we're looking for influencers. So when we interview people, we're looking for people that are running social events, have a ton of friends on Facebook, have a large following on Instagram, all different kinds of stuff like that. So we're actually now, it took a long time to build up to 10 to 20, but then again, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, all referrals from their friends. Hey, I'm a cool guy, I go to Western, this is my cool friend, she also goes to Western, she's in engineering, she does all the engineering social events, we should get her on board, and then it just works like that, like clockwork. So we do a lot of work managing the young ambassadors. I work with grad school programs, so I hire, instead of having 15, 20 ambassadors on the Western campus, I have one ambassador, we call them associates at the grad school level, and they work just U of T Rotman or just U of T Law. And I don't want to have 10 people in a 150-person program running around telling everyone to use Tilt. They'll be bumping into each other. So I just hire one person that I think is a social influencer at that school, and they introduce me to their student council, to their law society, their law student society, to founders of clubs, to all different kinds of events, and we work with them to get Tilt popular at that school, and eventually the engine runs itself again. People just start their own events without having to go to an ambassador. So that's how we built it up at the undergrad and grad school level.
Question on the back, sorry. That's first.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. I don't want to be rude in any way at all, but like, you're talking about things that are very one-to-one scaling. Fundamentally. You're talking about a student who recruits 10 people. How do you get entire communities get truly excited about a startup that really is about, I've already said, giving them free shit? So your little league coach recruits 5 guys you make no money on. That
Yeah, so-
little league's already in.
No, the
you
point's
make
well
no money.
taken. The point's well taken. So, again, the problem with Tilt is twofold. One, typically only organizers use the product. So, what ends up happening is I start a Tilt campaign and I say I'd like to collect from 10 of my buddies, and 3 or 4 of them don't really understand why I need to use Tilt because they've never collected money for anything in their life. They're always the deadbeats who never pay me for anything. So they're not the person I'm going
So you're at
after.
40% conversion rate. On
Sorry?
your existing community, you're at 40% conversion rate.
No, I'm saying those people will never really use Tilt to organize an event, but
40% conversion.
Like they'll pay.
but they'll still contribute. So they're still a contributor on Tilt. So I don't need everyone and their wife to start a campaign on Tilt. I just need people who typically organize things to organize more events on Tilt than they normally are doing otherwise.
To add to your point, you know, a lot of people you watch Bloomberg or you read about all these startup success stories. Facebook, it took Facebook 11 years to hit their critical consumption, to really get their feet moving. So if you're looking for an overnight success, it's really not going to happen. You will hit a tipping point with whatever market you're in.
So
You
you're
just keep trying to
guaranteeing
push.
a tipping point.
Sorry?
So you're guaranteeing a tipping point. What's the tipping point? What is that? For you, just personally, just for you, what's that tipping point where you get excited about an idea?
I don't really know because it's so individual to whatever event.
Just for you. What's your tipping point? Your new graphic design idea?
When something solves a problem for me. When there is something within whatever I do that truly solves a unique problem and answers something that otherwise didn't exist. I think that's a tipping point. But back to what you asked about getting this sea swell of attention, it happens so rarely that we all know the examples because all the examples are there. I mean, everybody's trying to push that big rock up a hill, and once you get there, well then you've hit that tipping point where you're going to create that groundswell of awareness and attention. You even see it among the startup community, the startup ecosystem.
So what gives you that tipping point? What causes that?
If I knew that, I wouldn't be in a startup.
Giving advice to people who are here.
No, I think the other point is that it's sometimes startups are just easier to explain than others. So Uber is pretty easy to get a groundswell because I can pretty much tell you in 3 words what Uber is. It brings your cab to your door and you can see it on your screen. That's a lot easier to explain than an application or a web-based program that makes it easier to collect money from your friends. People don't necessarily grab onto that right away. So it takes some time. It takes time, and it might just be one-on-one discussions, but if you have one discussion with someone and they start a Tilt and 500 people then contribute to that Tilt, then we have 500 new people who just use Tilt than we did the minute before that conversation started. So we don't have all the answers, but we're trying our best to start that kind of swell, and as it goes, it tends to build and build and build.
Okay, I think we had another question over there.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, what does the Tilt name mean? Because like big on names.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So originally we were Crowd Tilt,
Yeah.
and we rebranded middle of last year to just Tilt, probably on the advice of Andreessen Horowitz, because they, just teasing. But yeah, we think tilt is easier, and it's just like the gentleman was asking. We want people to say tilt that. We don't want we want people to say Google that. You want to say check that out on Facebook, and I want people to say, hey, we're going to the Blue Jay game this weekend, and someone in the crowd says tilt that, and that sounds a lot easier than crowd tilt that. So we moved to tilt. Tilt is actually a function of how the application works or the website works. So let's just say we were going to the cottage this weekend, and I said to everyone, I want to buy fancy steaks for everyone. So I need to raise $200 to buy the steaks. We need $20 from 10 different people. And the tilt is when we reach that point where the tilt actually becomes live, so the campaign becomes live. So up until 9 contributors, it actually doesn't charge anyone's credit card. It just puts a hold on their credit card, and once we hit the tilt, then it charges everyone's credit card, and everyone can contribute thereafter. But so that's the tilt effect.